Imagine it's 2009 and you work for PopCap. You make a little tower defense game and it does good. So like any reasonable company, you capitalize and make that money. Today, I'm going to cover some figures made for Plants vs. Zombies. Some well-known, some extremely rare, and some I believe haven't ever been talked about. And I hope you enjoy this video. I had to do a whole bunch of research, and if I get anything wrong, just leave it in the comments. A lot of this has very little documentation, so even finding something like the release date was very hard. But let's continue with the first figures ever made.
Okay, it's like Jerry the Mouse on crack.
On July 11th of 2010, Plants vs. Zombies GOTY was released, most notably for killing off the old Michael Jackson zombie and replacing him with the new Disco zombie. But when they physically released the GOTY version, they decided to also make a limited edition version including a zombie figure. And for being the first PVZ figure, he doesn't look horrible, though his face looks a little off. He seems to be made of a cheaper plastic with painted details, so I don't know. His tie has 4 stripes compared to in games 5, and has the accurate rips on his clothes. And his shoes have 2 laces, though they could have been painted, and the shoes do seem a little big. Now there are some problems. From what I've seen, Browncoat seems to be leaning forward, but back to his face. I think his eyes are too small and his nostrils are too big, giving him that slightly off feeling. But again, for the first figure, not bad. Later in June 2011, they released 2 more characters for the GOTY set, those being Disco and Sunflower. And from what I've found, it seems like they were released at the same time, giving people the option between the 2. Disco Zombie I think is an improvement over Browncoat. Disco has solid glasses that actually have pupils under them, which is surprising considering you wouldn't even see them. His hair is accurate, though is a little dark compared to the orange he has in game. His jacket and pants are great, though are missing tiny details like his buttons. Disco's shoes are amazing, and not as oversized as Browncoat's. But overall, pretty good, though Jazwares Disco easily clears. I hope editing me puts Brian getting run over. That'd be really funny. Moving on to Sunflower, which, wow, looks amazing. They nailed everything. I especially like the detail in the leaves, like the slight curling up of the leaf, which I think is maybe one of the only who do this, for most just lay flat. The only negative thing is that she's out of scale, being slightly shorter than the zombies, and that's the GOTY. Wait, I'm getting a call. What? Oh, okay, thanks. So there's only one more GOTY figure, but it's not for the PC version, but for the DS? Earlier in January 18th of 2011, which predates Disco and Sunflower, Special Yeti Edition, which came with Yeti Zombie. Shocker, I know, right? But for the actual figure, it's good. I don't know what to say beyond that. It's just a good and accurate figure. Nearly same as Jazwares. Speaking of which...
Hey, it's the Labubu guy! It's the Labubu guy! Hey, it's him! That's the Labubu guy!
On April 2012, Jazwares, I feel most people know them for their old Sonic line and recently their FNAF line, gained the Plants vs. Zombies license and made merch from 2012 to 2017. And since there's a lot of figures, I'll only talk about them if I have anything interesting about them. On July, they released their first wave of the Fun Dead series along with the mini set. The first wave consisted of Ducky Tube and Pea Shooter, Disco and Walnut, and Cone-Headed Sunflower. They are all sculpted amazingly and are a big improvement on the GOTY set. The zombies have some articulation, being the arms and head. Side tangent, I had the Disco and Walnut, and I remember breaking his glasses in I think like the first 5 minutes.
It's broken!
Which a lot of people must have had this issue, judging by like the amount of broken Disco zombies. Besides that, they're solid figures, though I think the GOTY Sunflower's face is better. Releasing alongside with the Fun Dead figures were the mini set, which I have.
So this is a mini set. They're decent, you know, tiny little things though. It's Pea Shooter. You shoot pea, and there's a lot of hand on the camera, so let's back the frick up. Yeah, they're fine, you know. I don't know what you really want to say. They're just solid things. Some issues are the lack of like balance. Like they cannot stand for the life of anything in the world. Unless you're fat, morbidly obese squash or fat, morbidly obese ass. Something interesting about them is that they actually released like in blind bags and shit. Alright, bye guys. Back to video or scripted me.
A year later in July 2013, the second wave of the Fun Dead series released, including Digger and Potato Mine, Crazy Dave and Imp, and All-Star and Jalapeno. They also released these weird exploding zombies, There was just Brown Coat and Mummy released in August. Digger and All-Star have Waist Swivel, unlike other zombies, and they have a new card back. Dave is an awesome choice, though he didn't get any Waist Swivel. Also, Potato Mine just massive for no reason. The rest are pretty good being in scale, but I guess he just didn't get the memo. Some odd things are All-Star and Jalapeno just seem to be rarer. The rest of them are somewhat easy to find, but I guess it just didn't make too many of them. Another thing I found looking at Jazwares' booth during 2014's Toy Fair, this Waves and name tag thing at the bottom just was reused from Series 1, though I'm assuming these are the same ones from 2013's Toy Fair since they were released in 2014. But there's no photos that you know to prove this. But you may ask, why I brought this up? And well, just keep it in the back of your mind for later. And I forgot to talk about the exploding zombies. You press their tie and they go boom. They're pretty cool, I guess. The skill with the poppers, I'm going to talk about later. Yeah, that's about it. In 2014, Fundead Series 3 released, introducing the first PvZ2 characters into the line, with Cowboy Zombie and Chili Bean and Tomb Raiser and Bloomerang, along with the PvZ2 mini set. The two zombies look great and are extremely accurate. Something odd is that they reused the Fundead Bloomerang in the mini pack. I mean, the mini sets were never, really good at being to scale, but like, imagine having like a 5'10" Bloomerang. Alright, editing me is stupid and I'm actually not funny, so I'm gonna go back to scripted me. For Chili Bean, they gave him a base that's the same color, which is odd because if you look at Jalapeno, he had a black base. Oddly, the mini pack is extremely rare. I thought it didn't even release, that's how rare it is. But for the actual figures, they're fine though. They got a little lazy since I already mentioned Bloomerang being reused. But they also reused Brown Coat from the last mini set also. But the rest consist of Bonk Choy Snapdragon, Pirate Zombie, and Future Zombie. I think the zombie choices are a little boring compared to the PvZ1 set. In February of 2015, the Popper series is introduced with Pea Shooter and Coconut Cannon. The only comic pack released in July with a reused Series 2 Crazy Dave and a new Zomboss figure. And Series 4 of the Fundead released in September with Jetpack Zombie and Infinite, and Jester Zombie and Hypno Shroom. But this wasn't the full lineup. Doing research for this video, I went through old Toy Fair photos. One of them being the 2015 Toy Fair, and PvZ had a small section. Now, I could only find 3 photos of what they had in the PvZ section, and they show 2 canceled figures, which I believe I will be the first to cover. These being Beach Zombie and Guacadile, and Swashbuckler and 3P. Or Coconut Cannon? Remember earlier when I told you to remember the tags being wrong? Looking at the box, it actually says Swashbuckler and Coconut Cannon, which made me make 3 theories. 1. Since it's shown they reuse tags, that means they also made or planned to release a Coconut Cannon with Swashbuckler pack. 2. They originally wanted to do Coconut Cannon early on, but swapped them out for 3-Peter, but never got around to changing the packaging. And 3. It is Coconut Cannon. I'm just gonna stop myself there. It's not. It's 100% 3-Peter. Like, come on me. But back to the actual figures, they look great and have pretty solid choices. I know all 14 Guacadile fans are outraged. Just sucks they got canceled for no reason, we will never know. But back to the rest of the wave, and getting a Zomboss figure is insane. I would never expect either of them to get merged, since there's so many more marketable characters. But luckily, they got figures. Moving back to the poppers, I have them also.
So this is Pea Shooter Popper, Mine's a little worn. He looks like, one of your dogs, like freaking 15 years old and like is blind and deaf and barely does anything. That's him. He looks great. I think he looks pretty good. That's him. He's not in the best condition. Can't really shoot that well anymore. He kinda does that. Let's test him out, guys. To the freaking testing field. Just imagine Fume Shroom's Pea Shooter, since my Pea Shooter's kind of old and dead and barely works. On the shooting range, we have Moon Lord, Lego Bob, we got Kakakin, and a signed copy of Easy Listening. Abilities.
Hit.
Boom. Boom.
The final year Jazwares released merchandise was in 2016, coinciding with the release of Garden Warfare 2. The Popper series released their last character, being Garden Warfare Cactus. Replacing the Fundead series is now the Garden Warfare 2 set with Zoologist. Wrong Zoologist! Who put this here? And there's like Deadbeard and whatever. And they also made a mini Garden Warfare 2 set, and that's every figure Jazwares released. Is what a fool would say. There was also supposed to be a Super Brains and Rose along with the other 2, though they weren't far into production, shown by their 2016 Toy Fair appearance. Also, Super Brains was like in his weird like concept design. Rose would have came with the GOAT, and more notably Super Brains with Super Bean, but he wasn't seen at Toy Fair, rather being a Gatling bot. But along with them was a planned RV.
And it says it's Penny
but it's not Penny. It's definitely not Penny. Everywhere I looked, no one calls the thing Penny. It's just an RV. Side tangent over. This would have been an awesome vehicle and possibly gave him a sport plant, since they planned to release 3 zombies on card. Back to Deadbeard and Zoologist. Deadbeard is stuck in this weird, like, pose. I just would rather have him be in like a more neutral position, like Zoologist. Zoologist is an odd choice. I feel like Colonel or Imp would have made more sense, but as someone who uses Zoologist decently enough, I appreciate the rep. And that's the Jazwares line. Great start and ended out bleeding out, barely releasing anything they planned.
These faces are actually the faces of a young couple from Nebraska who is abducted by aliens. Leon Adventure is a direct reference to this.
While doing research for this video, I ended up on the official PVZ Facebook. Scrolling through, I found the 13th anniversary post and had some merch posed up for it, like the Pops, the gaming head statue, the weird pea shooter thing. At first I thought it was the Youtooz, but those didn't even exist at the time. Then I remembered that reverse image search existed. Throwing in the image in, it led me to a LinkedIn page of, Liam Ping. In that post, it showed the full PVZ statue. It's clearly based on the pre-alpha PVZ3 pea shooter, and it has a PopCap 2019 on the grass dirt base. Being based off a pretty ugly version of the pea shooter, I think it looks better than the in-game model. I especially like the details in the leaves and its pose. Later, I found a Reddit post with a statue again. The Redditor called it the exclusive holiday gifts pea shooter. But more notably and importantly, in the comments someone said, I saw the Imp for auction on eBay once. There's an exclusive Imp statue also? Looking at sold listings, I found this exclusive 2018 statue. And there's the PVZ3 Imp in all of his horrifying glory. Again, I think he's less ugly than his in-game appearance, which isn't hard. But we actually have different angles, so we can see the world was only cursed with 160 of these, which means the pea shooter is probably in the same range. But if these barely have any photos, imagine what PopCap might have gave out to the PVZ team that is undocumented.
Because you're gay.
In 2012, Funko and their solo-side Pops gained the PVZ license, and they released Pea Shooter, Brown Coat, Sunflower, Conehead, and Disco. But that's not it, because they also made 2 exclusive Pops for San Diego Comic-Con, being metallic versions of Conehead and Disco for some reason.
What the fuck?
Anyways, I actually do own some of these, so let's cut to real
These
meat.
are the Funkos. You know, for Funkos, they actually aren't too ugly. They actually have pupils, which, you know, most Funkos don't have, and mouths. So they stand out, and they look pretty decent, you know. I think the plants look a little weird, you know, compared to their solo size, and these guys actually, you know, having eyeballs. But segment ended, back to me.
And in 2013, they added Swashbuckler. You get it at this point, scripting me just wants to pull a Sayori. And in 2016, they made a Super Brains Pop that actually looks really good for a Pop. There's just something about him that the other Pops don't have. All the other ones have like this slightly off feeling, but he just has this charm. I don't think the line was horrible, I just think there was a severe drought of plants. But from one vinyl figure company to another, enter...
No, they're not. They're snowballs.
You play with Snowman's balls? You're sick.
No!
One of the most recent figure releases was with Youtooz and the last company I'll be talking about today. And if this video does good, I still have a whole bunch of lines I can talk about, like the Connects or Diamond Select. Anyways, Youtooz is a company mostly known for making random YouTubers into figures, and they're alright. I own a couple of their figures, and yeah, they're less ugly than Pops, but like, they're definitely not worth the price. But it's crazy the amount of licenses they have. Like, name a company that's worked with, I don't know, Isaac and Postal. Anyways, side tangent over. On November 14th of 2024, they released the Pea Shooter and Crazy Dave, and they're all pretty good. Both of them feel lively thanks to their posing. Since I already covered so many Pea Shooters, I'll just be covering Dave. And I think this is the best piece of Crazy Dave merch there is. He looks great and is accurate to PVZ3, even though I like his 1 and 2 design more. I don't know why they made him slowly into a freaking soulless ginger. On August 12th of 2025, they dropped 2 more characters, these being their most recent release, being Chomper and Conehead. Again, like the rest, Chomper's perfect, and I don't know what you can even change about him. Conehead's posed greatly, and who could have guessed, is great. But that's it for now. Hopefully they continue making great releases, even though there's a 1% chance maybe they would make a Garden Warfare line. That would be insane.
That was mine, shall be pain for your sake. I hope you die in a fire.
So what have we learned? Nothing. But in reality, I really wish we had more companies who want to do stuff with PVZ, and that's really all I can hope for. This is my first video in this style of ever made, so if you enjoyed it, like, sub, all that junk. I still have tons of stuff to learn about these videos. I think I did a decent job. There's definitely parts where I was less energetic. But again, I've never really used my voice in this type of sense. I'm sorry I'm like kind of ranting here. Anyways, you know, I'm still learning everything, you know. I can't lie, I hated scripting. Scripting was ass. I never liked writing. The research was fun. Editing was fun. I'll probably put out more gaming videos in between these bigger projects like this video. So, yeah. Bye.